I just placed 2 trades in January and I'm up $77,000 already. And all I did was use trend lines. Let's break it down. These 2 trades are incredibly significant. The reason why the first trade is so important is that the first trade of the year is one of the hardest trades to place coming into the new year, especially in January. As a trader, it sets the tone for the entire year. It's like ripping off a Band-Aid. You have to just go ahead, place the trade, get into the market, start the year. I always struggle in January placing that first trade. And the weirdest part, I don't know if this is some kind of juju or the best kind of luck, but my first trade of the year was my record trade. That's gotta be a good sign for my year. I've got crazy goals this year. I'm trying to reach $500,000 to $1 million in trading profits this year. That is a little delusional, but I had to set insane goals this year because last year I hit my goals that I thought were crazy like nothing. So the fact that the first trade of the year was $50,000, I had that goal for a long time, to just close a $50,000 trade. And then the fact that I did it in my first trade of the year is mind-blowing. So I did do a full trade breakdown on that $50,000 trade. Now it sounds incredible, it sounds amazing, it sounds sexy, $50,000. But when you go back and see the trade breakdown that I did, if you haven't, plug right here, go watch that video now. It wasn't a trade to be incredibly proud of. I had to risk $40,000 just to make 50. So even though it sounds like an incredible thing, you have got to have some guts to be able to risk $40,000 to make $50,000. Now there's a lot of changes that I would have done to that specific trade. I traded the daily time frame instead of the 4-hour. Now the cool part is if I would have placed that same exact trade in the 4-hour time frame, my risk only would have been like 10 to 15,000. That sounds more aesthetic. You're like, oh yeah, sure. If I had to put down 15 or risk possibly losing 15 to make 50, that sounds more aesthetic. That sounds sexy. But in all honesty, I was being transparent. I did trade the daily time frame, so my risk had to be much higher. So I risked 40K to make 50, not something I'm super proud of, but I am still incredibly proud that I held to a $50,000 trade. That is such a milestone. Now let's talk about the next trade. The next trade was, I'm talking A+ setup, the stars aligned, 3 touch points, low risk. I only had to risk 9 to 10,000 to make 30,000. So this is a much more aesthetic, much more, a better trade to be proud of. So, but now let's actually break it down. Okay, so I want to start by going through my TradeZella, which if you don't know what TradeZella is, it is a trading journal that allows you to track all of your stats. You can see my win percentage, my average win to loss, my trade streak, my net profit and loss. You can see my percentages, my daily net cumulative P&L. If you are a nerd in any way, shape, or form, you will love TradeZella, like I do. So we're going to take a look at my overall stats for January. First things first, we're going to look at my net profit and loss, $77,644. I placed just 2 total trades. I don't have a profit factor yet because I haven't placed enough trades. But my trade win percentage is 100% because both trades in the month were winners. But now let's look at my Zella score. We're looking at 43. Doesn't look very aesthetic, but it's also just because I haven't placed enough trades. So it needs more trades to get more information. Oh, you know what? This is what you guys all want to know. This is what you guys all want to see. No one cares about dollar amounts because they think that I'm trading with millions of dollars. I'm not. But everyone wants to see the percentage. What is the percentage of profit and loss that I'm up? We're going to go to the filter here and filter by percentage. I'm up 68.86% in January. That's crazy. 77,000, cool. 68% is insane. So here we go. We're going to look at the 2 recent trades that we've got in January. The first one was closed on the 10th, and that was platinum. And then the second one was closed on the 27th, and that was crude oil. Now, right here, you're looking at the net ROI. This only says 5%, and this only says 3%. That is based on the nominal value, which is the actual cost. I'm trading on a margin account, so if you look at the actual cost of the trade and the actual amount of capital that it took me, this is the correct percentage, 68%. And I know a lot of you guys get really confused on the nominal value that it cost me to place a trade and trading on a margin account, which is the actual cash required to place the trade. I did do a video breaking down what margin is, trading a margin account, and the difference between the actual nominal value. And if you haven't seen that yet, go check it out. And if it's not out yet, stay tuned. It will be out eventually. Now, even though I already did a complete trade breakdown of the 50K trade I placed, let's do a very quick one now, since I've only got 2 trades to go over for all of January. Very close to 50,000. We were 49,961. We're gonna call it 50K. That is close enough. I traded 20 contracts. I capitalized on 9,999 ticks. And also someone enlightened me in the comments, which thank you guys always for the feedback, that the ticks is based on the also amount of contracts traded. So if you divide this by 20, that's the actual move. But this is times by 20, which is how many contracts I traded. Now, here is the difference. This is where everyone always gets it confused. And now I know, since I've seen this common comment in my comments. Wow. I've seen this common comments in my comments. Common comment in my comments. Okay, actually, I'm gonna spend this time to break down the 4-hour time frame versus the daily time frame. Really quickly, just so that you can understand the risk. I'm used to the 4-hour time frame. I am an excellent 4-hour time frame trader. I have spent an entire year in 2023 mastering the 4-hour time frame, and then in 2024, mastered it. And now coming into 2025, I am looking to level up. So I'm going more to the daily time frame. I'm just incorporating it more. I'm still experimenting with it. So it still could take me an entire year to master the daily time frame, but these are just some things to consider. I am much more confident in the 4-hour time frame. And let's break down the risk for the 4-hour. So in the 4-hour time frame, I took a break of a 2 touch point trend line. I took a long position here. My risk would have gone on the other side. Let's draw our trend line. We're using the ray tool. Boom, boom. The risk would have gone along this upward trend line. So I got in at 950, way down here. If the this would have been so low risk. Oh my gosh, 20 contracts. If the price had gone down to 944.04, let's just enter it. 944.04. This is wild. This is wild. I would have only had to risk $6,000 to make $50,000. Man, that sounds so sexy. I wish I could tell you guys that I traded this in the 4-hour time frame, but I didn't. I was truly willing to risk 40 grand to make this 50K. So as much as I would have loved to come out with this video and say I only had to risk 6,000 to make 50, that's just not the case. I truly was willing to move up a time frame, to level up as a trader and take on more risk. The goal wasn't 50K when I was in the daily time frame. I was looking for more of like 100,000, 150,000, but when you see those record numbers, it is the hardest thing to do not to close it. So I just so happened to close this trade at 50, but the goal in the daily time frame, leveling up as a trader, taking on more risk, I was looking for more profit as well. So I hope that clears things up with you guys on the last video that came out when I did that full trade breakdown. But it's cool to see. If I had traded this as per usual, I would have only had to risk $6,000 to make 50. Insane. But that's not the case. It's neither here nor there. So let's go back to the daily time frame. Downward trend line only had 2 touch points. Point A, point B. We got a break, long positions. The risk trails along my lower upward trend line, which is coming back from a higher time frame, even higher. I'm talking the weekly or the monthly time frame here. Price came to this area of resistance around this 989. I held through it a little bit longer to about 1,000 and then closed my trade. Okay, so that was my very first trade of the year, record trade, first trade of the year. Now let's get into the second one. Now, I've already posted full trade breakdowns of both of these trades, but this is kind of going over my month, my entire January. I wish I had more trades for you guys to break down, but truly that's it. This is the coolest part about being a swing trader. You do not place anywhere near as many trades as you do as a day trader. It has been the best thing I've ever done in my trading is transition from day trading to swing trading. 2 trades, all of January, 77,000, 68%, mind-blowing. I cannot wait to see what February gives me. Second trade of January. Here we go. Closed on the 27th. Now this was crude oil. So the first one was platinum and this is crude oil. My 2 loves of my lives. And I don't have to choose. Actually, I get both. I get to have my cake and eat it too. Platinum and crude oil. 2 very different instruments. Energies, metals. I don't trade any of the indices, but I love both of them. Okay, so what I really like about platinum and crude oil both is they both are very non-reactive when it comes to news. With the exception, though, of crude oil, when any political news comes out, like Ukraine or Iran, you get an insane move, but it's when it actually happens. So these are things that you can't anticipate. Whereas like Fed days or CPI and any of those kind of news days, there's not much reaction, which I love. Okay, so now let's go back to second trade of the year. We're looking at crude oil. The symbol is CLH25. Now this was a short position. I took a short in crude oil. I only went short 10 contracts. So if you watch my entire trade breakdown in this specific trade, I came in a little bit more cautious than usual, a little bit more on the cautious side. I erred on the side of caution. Now this was a 3 touch point trend line break instead of a 2 touch point trend line break. The coolest part about this trade, it is also low risk. I had to risk $8,900 to make 30,000 bucks. Not too shabby. My R multiple is 3.11R. But now let's look at the trade itself. Here we go. We're going to the 4-hour time frame. So now I did resort back to the 4-hour time frame. I did daily time frame in platinum, and I'm doing the 4-hour time frame in crude oil. Now, what prompted me to get into this trade? I'm going to do a super quick trade breakdown of this one since I don't have my chart marked up. This is going to be a great way for you guys to see how I mark up my charts. So I always use the ray tool. I'm looking for the lowest point you can see on the screen, and I am connecting it to the next higher low without the price intersecting. And then I come in even steeper. Boom. We've got a low. We've got a pullback, another pullback. Here we go. This was my entry right here. We had a break of an upward trend line. Actually, this went right here. There we go. 1, 2, and 3 touch points here. We got a break. I entered my short position here. Now, what mitigated my risk? How did I know how much I was willing to lose if this didn't work out? So you always make sure you have an opposing trend line, a trend line in the opposite direction. And look how beautifully price has respected this downward trend line. I've never seen crude oil respect a trend line like this before. This is actually pretty wild. I'm going to make this red so we can differentiate the two. But there we go. We've got an upward trend line and a downward trend line. Price broke the upward trend line, so that is my indication that we are going to be continuing down. I'm thinking short positions here. As long as price can respect and stay below this downward trend line, I'm staying in. Well, guess what? I stayed in for 28,000. How much did we make here? 27,000 here. I was ready to close. So I was looking for an area of support and resistance to close this instead of waiting for the safety line to get crossed. So we had an area of support here, hit back here on January 3rd, hit again on January 8th, and then here it got close enough. I closed just before this area of support just in case it didn't make it to it, and boom. Closed for $27,683. Okay, so that was my January 2025 incredible start. We're up 68%, 2 trades. I placed 1 trade with the 2 touch point trend line break and another trade with the 3 touch point trend line break. But as impressive as that sounds, my goal is still insane. I still have $422,356 to go. So if you guys want to watch to see if I make it to $500,000 or maybe $1 million in trading profits, don't forget to hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be a part of the community, hit the link in the description, and I'll see you guys in the next video.